What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast. That is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numak, coming to you after a Packers 48-32 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? How about them Cowboys, Jordan? How you doing, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. The Packers are the first seven seed to win a playoff game, and they dethroned America's team.
Some might say they were never that to begin with, but
I would
that's
agree with that.
neither here nor there. I think we can start this pod off with just saying there is only one owner of AT&T Stadium, and that is Aaron Jones. That is Aaron Jones. He has an absolutely career day. He was up there with Barry Sanders and I believe another all-time great for uh just the most rushing yards per game in the playoffs, or I think maybe a career regardless, at like 123 per game in his career. Just absolute ownership of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, oh, it was a beautiful game from Aaron Jones.
Absolutely beautiful game. We keyed in on him as being the key to unlocking any kind of offense, any kind of upset, really. And seeing the end zone three times, having 100. What do you finish with? What does it say on the screen right there? 113
118,
yards.
118.
118 yards. Basically, again, Aaron Jones has been around the same stat line of 20 plus carries, nearly 120 rushing yards, and then obviously the biggest difference is that he made up for all the last 3 weeks of not scoring with three touchdowns. He was like phenomenal. Like I know the first couple carries that he had were kind of sent behind the line of scrimmage and all that stuff, and then all these gaps just opened loose. Like the the way that he was just bursting through again, huge performance by the offensive line, freeing up him, obviously freeing up Jordan Love to roam and find wide receivers. This is a really good Cowboys defense that did not play like how they were, and the offense just pounded on them.
Pounded, pounded it.
Pounded.
Oh, it was so good to watch an absolute dismantling of the entire Cowboys defense. Excuse me. This like the Cowboys defense was scary all year long, right? And it's not
Yes.
like they weren't scary this game either, or coming into this game either. They were mostly healthy. They had all their players. Micah Parsons had something come up early, but he came back in. Like this was an absolute ownership from the Packers offense. Jordan Love had a absolutely magnificent game. It's just there's so many places to start. And I think what I want to start with first is just the general tone of this win. You talked about it on Thursday in our preview of this game that you wanted to win the coin toss, come out with the ball, and go down and score. And I, one of little faith, was worried about that plan in both ways. But you predicted the future correctly. They come out, drive the field on a very long drive, and score seven to set the
Longest
tone.
longest drive of the season, I believe, too.
What a great time to have it. Great time to
Yes.
have it.
Yes,
Because
it was a matter of putting your foot down, kind of making your what is it? Kind of
putting
there's
your
a
foot in the
word that I
imprint.
that, but like your mission statement, just putting like everything together. This is what we're coming in here to do, and we don't care that you're the second seed, that you have one of the most highest performance or performing offenses in the league, that you're the Dallas Cowboys, all the stuff that associates with Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
The Green Bay Packers, this Green Bay Packers team, as volatile as they have been, the last couple of weeks, they have clearly found something. And between Aaron Jones being healthy, being utilized in the offense, getting four straight games of 100 rushing yards, tying Ryan Grant for, I believe, the most rushing touchdowns in a single playoff game. Not surprising because Ryan Grant was phenomenal in playoff games. Everything about this offense, actually, there's a tweet that I should probably bring up and say on the air here. But They have the fifth highest expected points, um, or fifth best performance. This is from Sheil Kapadia from the Ringer. Packers turned in the fifth best offensive performance by any team in a game this season based on EPA per drive. That's out of a sample of 550.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So touchdowns on six of the first seven possessions before garbage time, zero sacks, huge. Micah Parsons only had two tackles and one QB hit, I think. Zero turnovers, and as Kapadia finishes off with this tweet, near perfect performance by NFL standards. What more could we have asked for? Really, like I know that they last week was like, okay, we knew that they scored more than what they put on the board.
Hmm.
That they were just overwhelming the Chicago Bears. To do the same thing to this Cowboys team was just insane. And obviously, they got some help from the defense too in getting a pick six.
Oh, that pick six. I was like wondering if that was Darnell Savage's top speed because it looks like he kind of jogged the majority of the way back, but I'm fine with it. He scored. It was a great play. Uh, but yeah, I think you put it perfectly. It's just this offense is coming together at the right time, and it's on the back of Aaron Jones. In his last four games, 21 carries, 20 carries, 22 and 21 for 127, 120, 111, and 118. That's incredible. That is a huge four-game stretch to make this uh, football team be playing its best ball at the right time. And I think we talked about it as much as we could the entire season that the run sets up the pass for this offense, and getting Aaron Jones going so early on and just taking them down the field on that first drive and even their second drive too. Or actually, it might have been the third. I think they punted their second drive, but regardless, it was just amazing to watch them go to work that early and just take control of this game. It was fun from the get go.
Yes, it was the thing about it. I'm gonna trip over my words because this is easily. I was rolling through my brain of playoff wins for the Packers, and I know we complain about the Packers choking on the under the biggest moments, stuff like that. This is the biggest Packers playoff win ever.
Oh yeah,
It's easily like again
Super
they're
Bowl aside.
9-8.
Super Bowls aside.
Yeah, Super Bowls aside, expectations aside, they're 9-8. They're a 7 seed. Again, this has not been done in NFL history, in part because they expanded the playoffs like what 3 years ago. So it's someone had to do it eventually. But for the fact that this team did it and did it so handily, I mean, they put up. I know Dallas scored right before the half, but they're up 27-0
Yep.
at late into the first half. They had every answer for Dallas. Dallas, they talked about it plenty on the broadcast between the amount of zone coverage looks that Jordan Love just dissected, the fact that they were lining up so far out of like giving such a cushion with Aaron Jones. It was Joe Barry-esque how this defense for the Cowboys played. And I think at one point, I'm looking at it right now, I think it's 7.7 yards per play that they finished with. At one point, that number was 9.4. Like they were getting first downs every offensive play.
Yeah, it was
Like
crazy.
that, that's insane.
It's quite
Insane.
insane.
It's insane. I feel like we should probably like just give off like hats off, kudos, whatever, to like 20 different people right now because it's between Matt LaFleur, who I was like, I'm not envious of him going into this playoff game and be like, you could be blamed for either not trusting Jordan Love or not giving the ball off to Aaron Jones. Turns out he did it perfectly, where Aaron Jones is heavily featured in this game, and the few throws that Jordan Love had, he finished with 20. Uh, he was just surgical in just dissecting this Cowboys secondary, where like the likes of Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore, you didn't hear their names mentioned at all. Jerron Curse maybe had one play of like, oh, that was a good play at
He had
defending
the,
a pass.
I think it was a deep shot on their second drive to Bull
Yep.
Mountain where it like bounced off Curse's helmet, and that was really all we heard of him.
Yeah. And I just thought the balance with which they played was superb. I thought obviously the way that in which that all these guys, like Aaron Jones was the constant throughout this, but Jordan Love, again, first playoff game, didn't show it at all. Like he's as composed, as poised, making throws under pressure when the Cowboys front line got through. And Romeo Dobbs, I'm going to spend the following minute to apologize to you for not believing in you, doubting your catching abilities. I believe he had like 3 or 4 third down conversions himself,
Yeah.
like easily a career high. If it was a regular season game, he finished with what is it? 6 catches, 151 yards, a touchdown, all on 6 targets. So he's a perfect 100% on catches. The guy lit up this Cowboy secondary and found the weak spots in their zone coverage. That was just amazing,
Hmm.
just simply amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. He finally did what we were asking him to do all season long, right? He finally was catching the ball once. He was getting open over the middle and just like having purposeful cuts on his routes. He had an amazing game. He had so many yards after the catch. Like, just a great game from Romeo Dobbs to really put the exclamation point on a lot of these drives. Like, I think he only finished with one touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but he had a huge part in setting up the rest of the six that they had in like before their first 7 drives because they really needed him this game. I should say Nick needed him, but he showed out for sure. Because yeah, in a game where Jaden Reed has no catches for no yards, like
No catches. I don't. Let's go.
he
I
had
think
three targets.
Bo
Yeah,
Melton had 1 catch for on 2 targets.
yep,
Like that's big stuff. I know Christian Watson, it was a big thing that he was playing, he was active. It was great to have him out there, but
yep,
we also knew that he was going to be maybe featured in what 10, 15 plays. We don't know the snap counts
yeah.
officially, but the way that Romeo Dobbs was a making plays was a favorite target of Jordan Love's. I think for me it's like it's twofold because you think of like all the success that they had on those third downs or any big spot like that where they're just stretching the Cowboys defense thin. I think for me, if I'm like looking at it from their perspective, and it's how we talk about the Packers defense in a lot of ways, this team was real. They mentioned on the broadcast this team was really good at playing man coverage. I mean, this Deron Bland made 5 pick sixes in the season in the regular season alone. They can cover guys. They can trust their secondary. They just played totally opposite of how they had played all year long, and I feel like that really bit them in the butts, like huge. And just how the Packers took advantage of that, playing their own way. It kind of just showed that what you do to go too far away of the habits that you made or built over the course of the season to where the Packers are like, as much as things have been, terrible for various points of the season,
Hmm.
the Packers team that we knew that was unrecognizable, like in the first half of the season, now everything's clicking, everything's working on all cylinders, and they didn't veer away from all of that, pretty much anything.
Right, and I think like one of the most surprising things too is that like Jordan Love had a really good game. As I pull up his stats here uh, quickly I should say it pretty slowly. 16 completions for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns. Almost a perfect passer rating, except for that incomplete on in the
Like,
garbage time in the
like a
fourth quarter.
crap.
Yeah, should have caught it, but no, not a big deal. There, besides the Romeo Dobbs touchdown that I think was the touchdown to get to 48,
Yeah.
I don't think he had like any spectacular throws in tight windows. He played so
Mm,
well the entire game, but I felt like every one of his targets was wide open.
yeah, actually, I feel like you're probably right on that one. The best example of that was
The Luke
the play
Musgrave.
action Luke Musgrave. It was like week one against the Bears, where it's like he's wide open.
Yep.
No one is in the same
He stayed on
area
his feet,
code.
Jordan. He stayed on his feet.
Stayed on his feet. Stayed on his feet. He protected that lacerated kidney, and he got in the end zone. Yeah, that was just like that was to go up to 41 points, and it's like, how can it get better than this? It can get a lot better than that because the bullet that he threw to Romeo Dobbs, who I thought he had already like in his progressions, I
Yeah,
thought he was looking elsewhere, and he just
came
threw
right
it on
back
a
to him. Like
laser.
the there might have been an inch between the defender's like fingertips and
Yeah.
the ball from where Jordan Love threw it. It was just a what a
And
throw.
backwards momentum too. So he's like, that's not easy.
It's
Where
not
you're just
easy.
like, oh, just like I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm a terrible quarterback, but yeah, that's Jordan Love again. It was so good to see him just to like not show any jitters, anything
Oh,
that I have.
whatsoever. Nobody did. I think Greg Olson said it on the
No,
broadcast. It's like they don't know any better. Like they shouldn't be winning this game. They're too young for their own good in a good way. Like they
yes,
had absolutely no jitters. They came out playing how they wanted to play, and they came out wheeling and dealing. Like I think Aaron Jones was obviously the most experienced one on this offense, and he just led them right to glory on this
yeah,
game.
yeah, it is truly, it's incredible just how they dismantled the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. Again, we got to hit this very hard. He scared the living crap out of me going into this game. We saw the way that they had put him on all different sides of the alignment of the front.
Yep.
Tucker Craft, outside of one holding call, I believe that was called on him.
Yep.
An amazing job defending Micah Parsons because they just need extra blockers. Patrick Taylor did a lot of good blitz pickups today. Aaron Jones, I think, did one or two. Like
Aaron
the
Jones
way,
had the big one. He had the big one
yes, he
in
did.
the first quarter on Micah Parsons that got Romeo Dobbs wide open. Like that was the extra
Yep.
beat that Jordan Love needed to find him.
Yeah, I just thought again when you finish with 0 sacks against this Cowboys team, it's that's really good. That is really good. It's a playoff game.
Yeah.
That's how good it is. We're not talking about the Giants, the Viking or the quarterback list Vikings or the Bears anymore. We're talking about playoff teams. We're talking about the second seed of Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
And again, Packers had house money going into this game. They did not play like that. They played like we are here to send a message and we want to continue our season beyond this Sunday. And obviously they did.
I mean, I just can't get over it enough just how well all of the young kids played. I just keep thinking about how there was no jitters. Rasheed Walker got absolutely blown up. I think like the second drive or something on a Aaron Jones run. But other than that, he played very well all game. Like you said, Jordan Love doesn't get sacked this game, and then like Zach Tom too, Rasheed Walker, Bull Melton, Dontavian Wicks, all of them, the two young rookie tight ends, like they just did so well. Like Tucker Craft's only bad thing was the hold that you had mentioned, and they got it
And a
right
drop.
back. Well, yeah, and that drop at the end of the game. But then, he gets it like it doesn't even matter because it ends up being like first and 16 from, or first and goal at the 16 after that hold. And they get it right back with a Romeo Dobbs 15-yard catch to go to the one, and then Aaron Jones scores from the one. Like that's just it didn't matter, and that's something that I think we haven't talked about enough is that they've been so clean penalty wise the entire second half of the season. I think they might have had like maybe two or three this entire game, but it wasn't a
Let
whole
me
lot.
I can look it up right now.
They had
Um,
penalties seven for 66 yards, and like honestly, I can't even remember a whole lot of them besides a couple
it sure
holds.
wasn't a lot of them wasn't on offense, which has always been the big bugaboo, at
Yeah,
least early in the season.
right.
And really, a lot of them were not even on the young guys. It was the Kenny Clark, the third down face mask. Jair Alexander got called for holding or illegal contact, where he got hurt. Um, those are the two that really stick out of my mind. I'm sure there's probably plenty of others, but
The
yeah, there wasn't.
the
There's
Elton
Elton
Jenkins
Jacobs.
hold
Maybe had one.
the Elton
Yeah,
Jenkins hold on like the second or first drive on Micah Parsons. That was a pretty obvious one, but it stopped a sack, and I think they kept the drive going anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm
yeah.
just go ahead.
Again, 48 points in a playoff game is astounding. You would expect that from a team like the Cowboys. You wouldn't expect that from a team like the Packers, who again were the seventh seed. But that is just what it was. Like that is the kind of it's this I the idealized way that Matt LaFleur has always wanted to play, and obviously for the better part of probably 16 to 18 games until the Thanksgiving game this year. We constantly question, well, like, can it work without these kind of strong link players like Devontae Adams? Aaron Rodgers obviously fell off last year. Can it work when you don't have the talent to match up with it? And the answer is yes, it can. Like it doesn't matter. Like we're talking about a team again, a game where Jaden Reed, the leading wide receiver, did not even get a single touch. It
Yeah,
did not matter.
that's crazy. That's
And
really crazy.
and the way that it threw off the Cowboys defense in terms of like they're having three wide receivers go out there, two tight ends, Aaron Jones, Emmanuel Wilson got some touches and to varying levels of success today. But all the things that we if I had told you Emmanuel Wilson was getting carries in a playoff game
I'd be
or
on
Sean
cloud
Clifford,
nine, Jordan.
I know, but or if Sean Clifford was getting snaps in a playoff game, first you'd be like, A, the Packers made the playoffs, so why am I complaining about this?
Right.
And B, you'd be like, oh, the Packers are down 24 in the fourth quarter. No, it was the Cowboys that are down 24 in the fourth quarter, and Sean Clifford was coming in to get playoff stamps. So yeah, like again, the offense did its job. That is, it's everything that we wanted for, or everything that we could dream for. And yeah, if the facing the 49ers next week is not going to be pretty, but hey, they got there in
It
the
wasn't
first
going to be
place.
pretty against Dallas either, so we'll see. But
Same.
we got a lot more to talk about before we get that, including oh no, Jerry Jones and his feelings. Jerry Jones called this Cowboys loss uh, is one of the biggest surprises since I've been involved in sports. Quote, I'm floored. Good, Jerry Jones. Good.
It is. I.
You know what's also floored, Jordan? You know what's also floored?
But
Dak Prescott's Louis Vuitton bags. Do you guys remember this tweet for the audio listeners? Cowboys QB Dak Prescott has been reminding himself about the road to the Super Bowl the past several months. I've got Louis Vuitton stuff. Why? Because it's LV of Las Vegas. And if I look at my bag, it's all LV, literally. I just went and got my girl the bag the other day, and I'm like, the only one I'm getting is one of those LV logo on it. That's right. That's right. The L. The L. For the fifth time, probably, at least, in Dak Prescott's career, that he's lost to the Packers.
he's got a history, man. Like I sung his praises. I thought this is probably the best radio season that he had. When it comes to the playoffs, he I'm not a guy that throws out the word choker, but it was astonishing how off base he was with CeeDee Lamb
Oh, it was so
all
obvious.
all first half. He was making like very aggressive tight window throws, and that's where Darnell Savage pounced on
Mm-hmm.
the interception and took it home for to the house.
Yeah, I think like it was obvious from the get go on their first drive when on the critical third down that made them go I think 6 and out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he throws behind and short to CeeDee Lamb, and they talked about it on the broadcast immediately after Dak and CeeDee were talking to each other, and Mike McCarthy went over to CeeDee. It's just like okay, like there's clearly some tension here going on, like what's going on, and they could not find it the rest of the game, at least when it mattered, right? Like they ended up finding some pretty good catches late in the fourth quarter that helped them make it somewhat close, um, or somewhat respectable, but when it really mattered, they were not on the
It
same
was
page
not a
all day
respectable
long.
game.
It wasn't, and like it turned out to be like I had talked in the preview of of this game that if they can figure out a way to stop CD over the middle and make everyone else beat them, then they'll have a chance to win. And that's exactly what they did for the majority of the game. Like Michael Gallup was really their only over the middle threat for almost the entirety of the game.
Yeah, I thought Jair. I mean, he himself got the pick. He strong armed. I believe was that. I think that was on CeeDee Lamb too.
No, it was on
Could be-
Cooks.
It was on Cooks. Okay, both fighting for the ball. Made a good play for it. I thought it was a good no call because both parties kind of set the tone for aggressive contact and all that stuff.
Yep.
But the way that between Jair before he got hurt, Carrington Valentine had some good moments against C. Lamb. Everything about like today with the secondary until the dam broke and the Dallas is getting their way with 25 second half points. I thought the way that they played and then they covered and just made like they did a really good job of just selling out, making sure that Dak had to kind of go through his progressions, and then it's like, okay, what do I do now? Do I scramble out? And he made some plays with his legs. I mean, obviously that's going to happen when that happens, but again, we that was the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league this year. CeeDee Lamb led the league with receptions this year. Had like a 75% catch percentage. So at top of the however many targets that he faced, he was catching three-fourths of them. And him and Dak Prescott looked like they were, it's July and it's the first day of training camp, and they were not on the same page. That's a crazy. And it wasn't, I don't think like I would say maybe part of it was the pressure that they faced from the secondary, and maybe how the Packers were lined up kind of threw them off. But it was like a 50-50 thing of like unforced like throws into weird windows that CeeDee Lamb was not fighting for. And the other half was the Packers kind of pushing him off edge, making sure he's off balance and trying to make his life a living hell kind of thing.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like them being so off on their, uh, I guess their just rhythm was very, very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple. This a dad and his sons. That's all we're looking at here. Audio listeners.
That is a terrible photo.
Audio
That is
listeners.
so bad.
No, it's great. No, it's great. Just a dad and his sons. It's just Jordan Love holding Jerry Jones with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott next to him. That's just a dad and his
Yeah, of
sons.
course.
That's all we're
Of
looking at.
course.
That's all.
The family photo.
While you're here, folks, if you haven't, hit the subscribe and the like button down below. We would really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the pod over on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts, go follow the podcast there, or you can find all the links at gspn.info. We'd love for you guys to check out the pod. We'll be podding a whole bunch more if the Packers keep playing like this. So I think it's time to talk about just in general the defense as well as what kind of worked. I think first and foremost, the Jair pick was the like in it. We talked about it again in the pregame pod or preview pod. This team didn't generate a lot of turnovers all season long, and you had mentioned it too that when Dallas wins the turnover battle or if they tie it, they were undefeated this season, and that was pretty much the game today. Like if you take out the pick six and the Jair pick that led the touchdown, that's six or probably 14 points off the board. But the Jair pick was like, I was so happy to see him finally put his like energy and all his like good, excited, rambunctious energy into a pick that was really, I don't want to say like ceiling, but like ceiling SCALING kind of ceiling, not the
Yeah, yeah.
not the roof that like Michael Jordan is the ceiling is the roof kind of thing, but into a I guess it's so hard to call it game stealing when it was still 7-0 or 14-0, but vibes wise, it was pretty pretty ceiling because after that it was heads hung like what is going on in Dallas kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the thing of again when we talked about the themes that have emerged in the Cowboys' losses this year. It's not just turnovers, but they just get beat pretty handily. Like again, the final result is a two-score game. It's 16 points. It was not like that for most of the game. I think what you're trying to search for is that set the tone for
Yep.
just
Yep.
how dominant the Packers looked. I mean, I'm looking at the play by play right now. They happened with 38 seconds left in the first. It's on Dallas's 19-yard line. So the Packers are immediately on the red zone. Like that is how like how it switched the field completely after the Packers had scored on the opening drive, but then they punted. And to get a gift like that, obviously it works out beyond anybody's belief that to get up 14-0 at like the start of the second. And then the way that that's just how this defense is. Like I made the joke in the Discord, the GSPN Discord, which everybody should be in. Join the GSPN Discord. It's fun, especially when the Packers kick someone's butt. We're going G rated today. But the way that it works for this defense where Joe Barry is, it feels like there's all this momentum of he's going to lose his job by season's end if the Packers don't make the playoffs. Well, the Packers make the playoffs. They do so on really good defensive performances against middling to below average teams at the end of the year with the Bears, Vikings, and skirting by the Panthers, obviously. But the way that this team, for some weird reason, and it happens with the Lions game or anything like that, where they just are doing so terribly. They are just run through constantly. Like opposing offenses can get whatever they want, whether it's Bryce Young and the Panthers or if it's Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. They can run through this defense so easily. And the moment like things look the most dire, no one has any belief in this defensive unit. They do things that they don't normally do, which is generate turnovers. And again, let's go through the box score again. I don't think Dak Prescott got sacked until the fourth quarter. I think he only got
Yeah,
had one.
I think
He only had one sack.
that was the
Oh,
Lucas
he had
Van
four
Ness.
sacks.
I think it was the Lucas Van Ness sack was the first one. I think he had a cut.
It,
Like I don't remember him going down through the first three quarters.
it says he had four sacks, but only for 16 yards. So whenever he was sacked, it was not for like a lot of losses.
I
Maybe it
wonder
was
if some of those are like scrambles out of bounds or something.
probably something
But
like that.
I remember like the only one that I remember that like was held up. 'Cause I think you had mentioned that Kenny Clark had a sack in the third quarter coming out of halftime that was negated due to a penalty. But the only one that I remember was Lucas Van Ness's
Oh,
sack.
Keyshawn Nixon had a sack. That was
Yeah,
a
yep. That was a big play too. That knocked him out of field goal
big play.
range.
Yep.
Knocked him out of field goal range. So
But it was not the way that we envisioned. Like, okay,
getting
pressure up
home,
front.
right? Getting home.
Yeah, like Dak Prescott threw 60 times and got sacked four times. So one out of every 15 throws, he's getting at least a clean enough pocket to throw to whoever he's throwing to. And he until I would say mid to late third quarter, his throws are really off. Like it wasn't just CeeDee Lamb. The interception was just or the two interceptions were just totally the tightest windows that he was expecting his wide receivers to complete, and
Yeah,
obviously the Packers cornerbacks took advantage of it.
yeah. Jair's was a great jump on the ball. Like he had to fit it in there to get to complete that pass, and he didn't. Like that's just a great interception by Jair. The Darnell Savage pick six. I don't know what he was looking. He must have not seen Darnell Savage lurking because that's like the prototypical pick six. Just like, oh, I'll be taking that and I'll be running all the way back to the end zone.
Yep.
Like there was no resistance on on his return.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that felt a lot like the Savage pick from the Vikings game last year, the second to last game. I can't remember if it was the same kind of like making a jump on a route like that, but he just shot out of a cannon and took it all the way. That it was very easily like,
I don't remember
oh,
it
this guy's gone.
specifically, but yeah, like we have seen him make those plays before for sure.
Yeah.
And I think like that's just the biggest thing, right? Is that Dak looked uncomfortable all day long, and I don't know what happened, but yeah, it was a crazy day for that Cowboys offense, and even like Tony Pollard. I guess we'll shift to that a little bit too. They did a pretty good job on Tony Pollard because a lot of his yards and like even like scrimmage yards didn't come until the second half. He finishes with 15 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown that came. I believe that was second half as well. I forget, but even that 7 catches for 29 yards in the passing game too. So just over 80 yards total from scrimmage. That's fine with me. They did a pretty good job throughout the game stopping the run. Even with like Rico Dowdle too. Rico Dowdle had 11 catches or 11 yards on 2 carries and 14 yards in the passing game. Like they did a really good job against the run when historically this season and last they have not been good against the run. As you know, as we
No,
all know. And
I think too. Sorry, to cut across, but I think this is the thing about this Packers defense is that opponents look at, okay, we can get anything that we want with this run defense. We can even with a, uh, whether it's like Saquon Barkley or I'm trying to think of like uh Chuba Hubbard. Like
Yep.
it doesn't matter the degree or the caliber of running back or committee of running backs that can go against this Packers run defense. This Packers run defense is such a blight that opposing offenses are looking at this like, okay, let's how can we, take advantage of this? That almost kind of like works in a reverse way where I felt like a lot of the early play calls for the Cowboys was not great. Like they're running on 2nd and 10. So you're immediately kind of setting up 3rd and long situations and you have to convert this. Like that was part of why the struggles between Dak and CeeDee Lamb were not on the same page. Why it was so apparent was because it's 3 and outs or it's 6 and outs, as you said. Like they had to convert those plays because they're trying to take advantage of the Packers run defense. And TJ Slade made big plays. Quay Walker, Kenny Clark, Devontae White. Like they did not let them loose in that situation. It was the biggest running plays were when Dak Prescott was scrambling or undesigned running plays. So for me, like I felt like that kind of played in the Packers' hands of like, why are you doing this in the first place? The Packers are the team that needs to bleed clock, not you, because you're already down 7-0 or 14-0 or whatever it is. And again, like we know Mike McCarthy and we
Yeah.
know how he coaches. I thought like their instincts, like both offense and defense, were just really off like right away.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And like you said it earlier in your point, are you saying they reverse psychology the Dallas Cowboys into into running the ball more?
I don't know. I don't know if that is what Joe Barry, you madman. I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but like it does kind of work. Well, I mean, it might not work next week,
No, I think Tony
but
the gap between Christian McCaffrey and Tony Pollard is quite large, frankly.
it's quite as large as like a Heisman Trophy stiff arm. Like that is how big it is.
That is
But
correct.
I just thought again there was just no the weird lack of aggression with play calls and all that stuff. It just played in the Packers' hands, and that's why we saw the defense just make plays when it mattered most. Because if anything, 3rd downs are their best defended plays, whether it's between sacks or making big plays with pass breakups or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Joe Barry.
If you would have told me that like if you'd have told me post game that the Cowboys would have outgained the Packers 510 to 415 and that they would have had 15 more first downs and held the ball for 3 more minutes, I would have just scheduled that loss. Like that just sounds like a loss to me. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the obviously the pick six helps with that. The short field and the interception helps with that, but it's not like the Cowboys had a bad game statistically. Besides the 2 interceptions, they got a lot of good plays, a lot of big plays, particularly in the second half. But as you said, I think they scored 25 in the second half. They outscored the Packers in the second half. But
Yep.
uh, the Cowboys had
4 to 5 in the red zone. I'm looking at like 3rd down, 10 of 16 on 3rd downs, 0-2 on 4th downs.
yep,
That was another thing. Like it's a small thing, but the going for two when it was 34-16. There's 2 plays that go against the Cowboys. They elect to kick the field goal.
yep.
So because field goals are placed at the 15, it's a 10-yard penalty from there, so that a field goal becomes a 43-yarder, and then the kicker, who has
Doinks
been
it
pretty much automatic, he joinks it. Like that was just representative of the entire
The
day for the
entire game.
Cowboys. Like
Yeah, they
it's insane.
they get the 2 point conversion, and it's called back because of a pick penalty. And I think there's actually 2 penalties on that play, if I'm not mistaken. But like you said, then it gets pushed back, and it's just the icing on top of the cake for this game. Like it was everything that could go wrong for the Cowboys at this point went wrong, and that's totally fine by me. Totally fine by me. I am not
I would
sad.
agree.
I am not sad to see the Cowboys bow out of the playoffs like this. It's just no one likes the Cowboys, right? Cowboys fans like the Cowboys. Anybody other than that, nobody likes the Cowboys. I've seen.
They have not been to the NFC Championship game since 1995. The Green Bay Packers have been there 9 times since
Oh
then.
my. Oh my, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Was it spring or was it winter '95? Like early '95, or the '95 season?
95 season.
Okay, so I was born. I was trying to think if I was born or not.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Maybe just barely
Yeah,
though.
just a baby. So yeah, honestly, very very happy to watch this game. To be just an absolute blowout the entire time. Like it just is so encouraging for even like next year and years going forward. This is a confidence booster. Like they know they can do this, and they have all the confidence in the world right now. They're playing again with house money, and you think about how this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of of this run, of this era, and they've got a leader in Jordan Love. He's gonna get a big contract in the offseason. Aaron
Oh,
Aaron Jones is just the leader amongst in the clubhouse, yeah, just as the veteran guy, and they talked about it all broadcast. He's fresh. Having him sit, like not sit, but him be hurt most of the year, and being able to come back tonight or the last half or quarter of the season to put up these numbers like he is, he's playing at a severe advantage to the rest of the D linemen and linebackers trying to tackle him. It's crazy. He's fresh as can be, and these D linemen and linebackers are playing with 18 games of wear and tear. And I think in this game particularly, it was very evident that Aaron Jones just had more juice than the rest of the Cowboys defense.
yes. I mean, truth be told, this is an Aaron Jones legacy game.
Oh
Like
yeah,
we have talked a lot about how before we could name all the running backs that came before him, and how it was just kind of an endless search of like, okay, they have this guy. Oh wait, James Starks is, he's here and there, but like he just rides these crazy streaks. Aaron Jones has been the starting running back for the Packers for 5/6 years. Has been at least in the mix for 6 years, 7 seasons, I should say. And you just need that moment with when it comes to playoff time that like, okay, that is the Aaron Jones game. We remember Ryan Grant, you know, who had been a practice squad guy and then just gave a huge boost to that Packers team in 2007, being the Seahawks. Again, a very similar kind of just overwhelming performance. Obviously, we would have expected that from a Packers team that went 13-3 that year, but with Aaron Jones, everything just broke the right way. Where it's a team that he has had plenty of success against. It's a building that he has had plenty of success playing in, and the forum that he has been in, it's a perfect storm of him just putting everything together. And again, probably one of the most fun Packers players to root for because he just wears everything on his sleeve. He's just a very sincere, very fun loving kind of guy. And to see him just do this thing for so many years now and have it go on the biggest stage where everybody's watching these playoff games if it's not on Peacock and all this stuff, like it's just, I don't know, it's the best thing to see him put in a signature performance like that at age 29 when everybody's looking at running backs like, hey, no, they're trash, don't pay them or anything like that. Aaron Jones is the what is it, fountain of youth kind of for these running backs.
he is. He absolutely is. 4 games, 488 rush yards on 83
God.
carries, almost 6 yards per carries, and 9 rushing touchdowns, 122 yards per game, most by any player with at least 3 games versus Dallas. That's what I was talking about uh, earlier in the pod, and he was ahead of the likes of Barry Sanders and other all-time running backs on that list. But I mean, you talk about being the best guy to root for on the Packers and the most like fun guy to root for. I mean, if there is one Packer that bleeds green and gold in the last 15 years, 20 years maybe, since the start of the century, it's Aaron Jones. Like, this man
Hmm.
loves the franchise, took the pay cut in the offseason to stay on the team, like, has been without a doubt the emotional leader in the running back room and on offense the entire year. Like, we've seen a couple of little skirmishes happen up between uh, the Vikings and a couple other ones where he's sort of the mediator in some of these things, and it's just he's a leader. He's a natural born leader and a guy that loves to carry the G, right? Like he loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Oh, that G was all over that star today.
Yeah, it was.
We're stomping on it like Terrell Owens. There's no George Teague to run him over
Nope.
like he did in 20 years. That was and we talked about it again, not to just kind of be like the we talked about it the last pod, blah, 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 but a lot of the things that we had talked about were the conditions of playing an indoor stadium, especially given the fact that it's, I believe, negative degrees in the Wisconsin area,
It's cold.
and it's very cold, and I believe it was like 20, a high of 25 in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington
It
area.
was.
So it's cold everywhere, and you know what that means? There's a frozen tundra everywhere.
That's right. That's right. We're talking all over the nation, baby. Talk of the tundra. North, south, east, west. Zach Cruz, we touched on it in the beginning of the pod, but puts it pretty plainly as well, and I want to get your take on this as well. Um, he says it's going to be tough to rank this win amongst the best in recent Packers history. It's certainly the best playoff win in the LaFleur era. Best since being the Cowboys in 2016. Best since the Super Bowl. Best since being the Falcons in 2010. This is amongst them, and I agree 1,000%. Like, I don't think I can think of a better statement win. There's been more fun wins. The Giants win in
16.
2020 when um when Randall Cobb caught
That was
that was
2016.
2016. Jeez Louise. That was really
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah, that was a wild card game to play the
Oh
Cowboys
my
when they beat
god.
them.
But like that one was fun. And that's not even the LaFleur era,
Mhm.
obviously. But yeah, it's
I
just
mean,
been
let's be honest. There's not a lot of
there's
playoff
not a lot of
wins in the
playoff success in
LaFleur
the LaFleur era. I think there's what, two? This maybe two?
Yeah.
I think this may
Yes.
be two.
Before today.
Yeah, exactly. So, regardless,
So it's easily the best
one of
LaFleur
of
playoff
the
win.
LaFleur era.
Um, let's think. I mean, that Seahawks snow game, like I mentioned, the Ryan Grant game, where I believe they were down 14-0 because they had fumbles,
Yep.
and they still overcame that. But again, it's a lot different when you expect them to win these playoff games. We're not used to the Packers being the squeaking by in the playoffs on the last regular game of the regular season and then winning a playoff game. I don't know if that's ever happened in playoff history for
No.
the Packers because there's this massive abyss between when they're winning championships with Vince Lombardi and then Brett Favre comes along. Like that is probably the equivalent, like the closest equivalent of everything where they beat the Lions in the Silverdome. A Lions team that have won the division. It was the last time they won the division
Yep.
till this year.
Right.
So I think that's the only closest thing that we could even mention. Maybe I'm missing a game or two that came before my time, but yeah, that's that. I don't know.
I'm just looking at the defense and I'm trying to like pick guys out that deserve credits, and there's so many.
Keyshawn Nixon,
Yep.
easily the best game of the year. Again, the sack was like that, but he had a really good pass breakup late, had a good pass breakup early. Like I thought he was a guy that I felt like whether it was CeeDee Lamb or anybody that was lined up in the slot, I felt like they were going to take advantage of that. They didn't. Part of that is because Prescott and CeeDee Lamb were not on the same page, but Keyshawn Nixon really held his own, on his, I want to say probably first playoff game too.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it is. Imagine having an all-pro kick returner as one of your best slot corners.
I couldn't imagine that. Could not imagine that.
That's reality. Don't have to imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's no Pro Bowlers on this Packers team, and they just put up a near 50 bomb on the best offense in the NFL and one of the best standout defenses in the NFL. Like
Mhm.
that's just good stuff. Quay Walker had a good game. Him and Keyshawn tied for most tackles according to ESPN with 11. Devondre Campbell had a part of a sack, and he had a pass deflection that went right off his hands in the end zone, which is tough. But that I mean that's fine. It was off his like far hand. If he had gotten two hands on it, I bet you he catches it. But
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, Carrington Valentine had 8 tackles. Uh, I mean, both corners just played. I mean, all the entire secondary put out of their mind.
Yeah. Isaiah McDuffie too. He had a couple run stops today. Um, he got hurt later. Was that the second half?
Second half,
Yeah, it was second
got a
half.
stinger.
Yeah. But yeah, he's been played or made big tackles and big moments this year. And again, a lot of the stuff that we saw like throughout the year where it's like, okay, this guy has a moment, this guy has a moment. I wouldn't necessarily. This was maybe like a C plus B minus level kind of game for the front line where yeah they had some pressures. They pushed Dak Prescott out in uncomfortable moments, but the secondary like again we it's a big sore spot when you're facing against the NFL leader in catches,
Yeah,
and they asserted themselves against that. Like that to me that's the game right there of Packers put up points, but for a game that could have easily been a shootout, and probably some people look at the box score and be like, oh,
it was a shootout,
it was a shootout. Yeah,
but
but
it
it
wasn't.
wasn't. Yeah. That the difference was the secondary, Jair Alexander, Valentine, Darnell Savage, Jonathan Owens, like those guys made the plays and covered so well that you know um, we're here celebrating. That's why.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just what a great game to witness. What a great game to witness.
Oh,
Oh man, I think we ought to leave it with
I
lit.
didn't think
Go ahead.
I didn't think this was possible. I did not think this was possible.
I mean,
We both
we said as much in our pregame pod, our preview pod.
we both thought two score deficits to finish the game,
Yeah,
and
I'm
we
going
were
back
happy to be
now.
here.
I'm going back now to try and find it to see what our score predictions were and what our players to watch were. So we went we went 1 for 4 on players to watch. You had Aaron Jones and Micah Parsons. I had Jaden Reed and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb still puts over 100, but no touchdown.
Didn't really get anything.
Right. So I went 0 for, but then I had 33-20 and you had 38-20. So
Yeah,
we were wrong on that, but we're happy to be wrong on that, right?
the Packers scored more points in the hat and by halftime than I predicted
Yeah.
all game long.
Right.
So that is the level of believability I had on this team, and it again did not matter.
I think you had mentioned it
Oh,
earlier. Uh, Micah Parsons is from Next Gen Stats. The Packers held Micah Parsons to just 1 pressure on 19 pass rushes, his lowest pressure rate in a game in his career, which is like 5%. Parsons only had 1 pressure, had his only pressure come on an unblocked pass rush. Right tackle Zach Tom held him to 0 pressures in 9 matchups. A, a non factor the entire
get
game.
Tom.
Get Tomed. Oh, all right, Jordan. You got anything else?
No, I'm. Do we look ahead? We know who the Packers are playing.
Yep.
We are the only team that knows who the next opponent's gonna be, right?
Yes,
Unless
because the Bills are the 2 seed, right?
Bills are the
Yes, I'm
two
almost
seed.
certain they are.
Yes, yes.
Well, no, because then the Texans play the other AFC team, which is who else played?
I'm looking right now. The game getting pushed back is throwing me off.
Yeah, the Texans play the Chiefs,
Yes,
and then the Bills. If the Bills win, I guess I don't know. No, we don't know because the NFL reseeds.
it does.
So depending on who the wins tomorrow's game between the Steelers and the Bills, if the Steelers win, they'll go and face the Ravens. If Buffalo wins, they'll go and face Kansas City, and Houston will go to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's it. Now we are locked in
Yes, we are
because we are
locked
the
in
seventh seed.
to going to Santa Clara.
A place where the Packers have not played well in the postseason.
No, absolutely not. Uh, but they did win last year over there. It's a way different team. Or no, 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Two
Yep.
years ago. But it's a way different team. Long time ago. But this team is riding high. So I'm nervous. Um, but I think that if there's a team that has a shot, it's this one right now.
What a crazy sentence.
right? They playing as best they're the best football they can. They're gonna need to be just as sharp as they were today, if not sharper. But there's an opportunity. I think it'll be closer than this game, frankly. Because
I
remember
think that's a safe bet to
the
say.
Niners beat the bricks off the Cowboys earlier in the season.
Yes, they did 42-10.
Right. And so in a similar brick beating fashion, the Packers put on the Cowboys today. Like, we'll see how it goes against the Niners next week. They're gonna be rested, they'll be fresh. We know as Packers fans how that works. Um the 49ers will
They're
take
also banged up though.
are
Like
they?
McCaffrey's coming back from a
Yeah.
calf strain. Like
Yep.
that's not easy.
The
This is also Matt LaFleur's third time against Kyle Shanahan in the
a
playoffs.
man who he hates.
Well, I mean, he developed under him,
I think there's a lot of love lost there
probably.
after the
Aaron
Niners
Rodgers.
called on him. Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
not a lot of good feelings between those two, and evidence as their handshakes in year past. But that's for the preview pod, folks. We ought to leave it with Leroy Butler talking about
Oh.
the Cowboys. It's not a logo, it's a rating. And that's 1 star, baby.
Oh.
All right, folks, that's all from us. Thank you all for tuning in to our live podcast. Like I mentioned during the pod, if you haven't, go check out Talk of the Tundra on all of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the other ones that I'm sure there's thousands of that I can't name right now. You can find the links at gspn.info. That has all the links to the GSPN pods, including Eurostep and 1-6, which is the Bucks feed, as the Bucks are hopefully winning against the Kings right now. I haven't been really paying attention. Is that true? Is that false? I'm checking right now. Doesn't really matter. They are currently winning. So check out Ty Rohan on Eurostep and my good buddy Jordan here and Adam McGee on 1-6. Check out Adam and Andrew Snyder on Cruising for a Bruising, the Brewers podcast. They're ramping up as the Brewers season is soon coming. I think 2.5 months until pitchers and catchers report. And then check out Adam and Andrew's pod. Make time for this for all of your movie needs as the award season has begun and cometh with the Oscars in about, I think, 2 months. So with that, folks, thank you so much for listening. What a pod. How about them Cowboys? Big L.
How about them Packers?
How about them Packers, baby? Go Pack, go. Thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.